Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of our Medtech Talks. My name is Paula Navas. I'm the Commercial Director of J&J MedTech Northern Region, Latin America. Today, we have two very special guests with us, Benjamin Soffer, CEO of Ichilov Tech, Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center, Ichilov, who will share with us about healthcare ecosystems and his experience on turning a hospital into a hub of healthcare innovation. And Joaquin Moreno, General Manager of J&J MedTech Northern Region, Latin America, who will be talking with us about how Johnson Johnson MedTech is driving innovation in the healthcare industry. Welcome, Benjamin and Joaquin. Thank you both for joining us in today's episode. Okay, so let's start. Benjamin, please start by telling us about Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center, Ichilov, and its experience in innovation.
Thank you very much, Paula. I'm very happy to be here. So Ichilov is a full-service hospital situated in Tel Aviv, the central hospital in Israel, the largest actually, and putting a lot of emphasis on innovation in different fields. So aside of having 2,000 physicians, clinicians, we have about 1,800 nurses, 28 active spin-out companies. Out of the 2,000 clinicians, 700 of them are MD, PhD, meaning that they are conducting research, 8,000 square meters of facilities to do research. And at any given time, about 2,300 clinical trials that are being done. We collaborate closely with companies, big companies like Johnson and other companies, startup companies. And as of now, we have about 100 startup companies that we collaborate with, in addition to about 26 companies that we have spun out along the years based on intellectual property that was built within the hospital.
Thanks for sharing, Ben. That's amazing. And Ben, Israel has been recognized for its new technologies and innovative culture. What do you believe are the strengths of Israel's healthcare ecosystem that has allowed your institutions to go this far?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So it goes back to a cultural issue. I think Israelis in general have a very high risk profile in different areas of innovation, and hospitals and universities are a main engine of innovation in healthcare. So the risk profile is very, very high. And then an ecosystem of innovation is essentially a formula of multiplication. So you need many ingredients. You need strong hospitals, strong universities. You need a vibrant VC community, a vibrant entrepreneurial community, and most of all, a willingness to take risk. Israel, as you know, is per capita the richest country in the world in VC funding, and that attracts a lot of talent into the country to tackle the most burning issues in healthcare and also in other areas. So it's a mix of different issues, and I think what makes the Israelis, in a way, if I may say so, unique is that they are extremely dynamic. So they can identify a problem and immediately, apply their talent to a different problem. So it's like a fleet of speedboats, the Israeli startup companies, and as of now we have 7,000 of them. About 1,500 of them are in the healthcare sector. So the fact that the country is so young without any other resources forces actually the country to focus efforts in the human capital, essentially. And it's not maybe like other countries that it's like a big forest that makes it more difficult for new ventures to grow up. And fortunately, within Ichilov, what we were able to do is to augment and to complete this ecosystem. So you have the VCs, so you have the capital, you have the researchers, you have the infrastructure that we have built along the years. You have the entrepreneurs that we found vehicles to engage with. We have the incubators and of course, the university that we work closely with. So all the pieces of the puzzle are there. And the question is, to what extent are we able to extract the value coming of this ecosystem? And we believe so far we are doing okay, and our aim is to enhance it in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. We all have a lot to learn from Israel. Joaquin, Benjamin has told us about the importance of healthcare ecosystems and how it is a formula for innovation. Can you tell us about the role different stakeholders play in a healthcare ecosystem?
Thank you, Paula, and great to be here. I think Benjamin outlined many pieces of an ecosystem in healthcare. And maybe I'll spend a little bit of time, why do we talk about an ecosystem, right? And I think that's a very important analogy. The concept of ecosystem, right, in nature is many different beings, right, that all together are needed and need each other, right? An ecosystem only survives or thrives if all of the pieces are in balance. Each player is doing their part, and there's a great interdependency. And I think for healthcare, it's very important that we have ecosystems and we think in an ecosystem manner because the problems we need to solve are quite complex, right? And the solution isn't found in one place, right? Or nobody is the holder of the truth. So by joining all these forces together and working collaboratively, right? And I think that's a key word from what you were explaining happens in Israel, Benjamin, is fundamental for healthcare innovation. So if to mention a few examples, right, and of roles, and then I'll talk a bit about the industry, right, or companies such as ours, right, who are in part of this ecosystem. Ben talked about startups a lot and entrepreneurs. They're fundamental because they focus all their time and energy on solving problems, right, and therefore they're key allies because they come up with solutions in a faster fashion, right, with more creativity. Incubators are fundamental, right? And governments there many times play that role of incubators. They can also be private, they can be public-private. But incubators are those who facilitate startup companies to come together, right, and bring those ideas. You need bridges, right? And that's where, for example, we can play a role as industry, working closely with customers, understanding their needs, and building a bridge to those solutions that exist from the ecosystem. And those are just a few examples, right, of this interdependency and collaboration that is needed. Universities are fundamental, but universities need to understand the problems better. And so hospital, right, which is at the center of all of this ecosystem, is really a key player because that's where healthcare happens, right? And I heard Benjamin mention this before today, so I'm going to quote you, is, the one-stop shop for healthcare is hospitals. And so to really understand the needs, well, hospitals will and always play a key role in this ecosystem. So that's a bit of how we see it playing out.
Okay, and talking about hospitals, Ben, moving forward with your hospital's experience in innovation, which are the pillars that your institution has chosen to promote innovation, and how did you identify them?
So thank you, Paula, for the question. We were looking for the areas where we can find the most value by introducing innovation. And, you have to focus at something because you cannot be a jack of all trades. So for now, we are focused on telemedicine and telehealth as an area of focus. Smart rehabilitation, which is a very, very important field that we are now engaged in. Mental health is also an area. We are seeing, more and more digital therapeutics. Virtual and augmented reality is a big field, and we expect this to grow even further. Of course, population health management is a key and central issue in our work, and on top of all this, of course, we have the issue of analytics and big data. So we are engaging more and more people that are able to look at the data, the clinical data, which we collect, and extract value out of this data. And of course, in order to do this, then you have the issues of cybersecurity. So again, to the point and the areas that we focused on, the question is, where is the most value that we can extract with the digital vehicles that are being now developed? And we are looking always to develop and improve the physical and digital accessibility of our patients. And we are looking for less capacity and much more result-oriented approach. And that's why we have chosen to focus on this area for now.
Thanks, Benjamin. Joaquin, moving now to you. A key concept is value-based innovation. What does it mean, and how do we in J&J contribute to value-based innovation through hospitals?
And I'll start my answer where Benjamin left off, right? He talked about less focused on capacity as a hospital and more focused on results. So when we think about value first, that is a very multidisciplinary or multidimensional view. And it has to do, for example, with clinical outcomes, of course. Hospitals and those of us who work with hospitals are focused on better clinical outcomes for our patients, but also the patient experience, right? That is also a very key component. Also, how do we enhance everybody who works at the hospital and their experience, their quality of life as well? And that's another key layer. And finally, sustainability is key. So cost effectiveness, how we maximize operational efficiencies, all of those are components of value. So when we think about value-based innovation, it's innovations in many different layers, right? Benjamin was talking about digital solutions and technologies that exist. Those are fundamental, but we also need to innovate at the process level. We also need to innovate at the organizational level, how we get things done, protocols, right? Patient journeys, all of these elements are super important. So we can talk about, value-based innovation in all of these different aspects and dimensions, Paula.
Thanks, Joaquin. Well, Benjamin, with Joaquin's concept of value-based innovation, may you please tell us why should healthcare institutions work in innovation programs? What's in it for them?
Thank you, Paula. So I think it's inevitable. If I can use an analogy from a relative industry, the academia and universities, they started to introduce innovation and emphasize entrepreneurship because they realized that if they don't, they will become less relevant. And my concern is that institutions, hospitals that will not engage and will not introduce innovation will simply become less relevant because you need it in order to be efficient. You need it in order to be patient or customer focused. You need it in order to meet your financial goals. And I can, give you a few examples. So one of the companies that we have spun out is Scopio, or actually did the venture building together is Scopio. It's a full-field cell morphology company that can, without losing the resolution, focus on specific cells and do blood smears, essentially digitally. Instead of a person sitting today looking over the microscope in a very tedious work, you have essentially a digital way to do it, which is much more efficient, much more economic, and much more reliable than having essentially a human being do it, a doctor. And of course, less costly. So this is just one example. Then the engagement with patient, if you don't introduce innovation in the way that the patient expects, he will go, she will go somewhere else where this can be achieved. And one example of a company that we have helped build is GistMD, which is doing exactly this. This is patient engagement, preparing them in a personal way before and after the procedure, for the procedure. So you don't have a situation whereby a patient comes for, let's say, a colonoscopy and he's not prepared. And you have a slot which is unused, and then you have lost revenue. So my belief is that hospitals that will not be able to embrace innovation will, at the end, become less relevant, and simply the patient we lose to a place where can engage them in a way that they feel comfortable with and they expect.
And if I may, Paula, I think, to build on Benjamin's answer, again, going back to that concept of value, it's in all these different dimensions. He mentioned two clear ones, right? On the diagnosis side, another one on patient engagement and experience. And I think a key concept, right, of how we can help hospitals in that journey is to really focus on the need, right? What is the need? And really, which are the most important needs? Because a hospital has many, right? And choosing, and we've talked about this now, right? Choosing where to focus efforts is super important. Obviously, we can provide more help in disease states where we have expertise, right? So that's key, right? We cannot come to the table with a hospital to promise something where we're not going to add value. So also our offer is focused mostly on disease states where we have expertise, but the particular need of the hospital in that disease state is very different, right? And so we have to adapt our offering to what that hospital is looking for, which part of that value chain is really where we're going to focus on. And then you can build on, right? You start somewhere and then you build on. I think that's another key concept in innovation.
Yeah, start with something.
Yes.
Thanks, Joaquin. Benjamin, what are those key elements required to drive innovation in healthcare, and what role does leadership play in all this process?
Thank you, Paula. I think the role of leadership is critical. I mean, without a clear statement from the leadership of the organization that the organization is going to engage and to embrace innovation, nothing will happen. It's true that hospitals are expected to solve everything. I mean, they are simply overloaded with missions. But we have reached a point, and this is a kind of a silver lining following the COVID pandemic, where it became apparent. Because what COVID showed us is that there are many areas that are essentially broken and needs to be fixed. There are many areas in the healthcare system that are underutilized, many assets that are underutilized. We mentioned before the pharmacist, but the patient herself is an asset that is underutilized. And what we need to do, and this is again silver lining for COVID, is engage the patient in their journey in a more meaningful way. So I personally feel that without the leadership that shows the way to the constituencies within the hospital, it will simply not work. The clinicians have many missions that they have to comply with, and if it doesn't become a priority for the hospital, it will simply not happen, because innovation is difficult. It is difficult, especially if it is done, in conjunction with all the other many activities that you have to do in a very busy clinical center. So I do believe, I cannot emphasize enough how important, a clear message that comes with resources and attention from management is.
Thanks, Ben. And definitely COVID taught us how to innovate when you really need it.
Yeah, because it injected a sense of urgency, and sometimes you need it to have a change. So of course, COVID was terrible, but there is a silver lining, because finally we have this sense of urgency to fix what needs to be fixed within our systems all over the world. And fortunately enough, now we have the technology that enables it. Look how many years people are talking about telemedicine. All of a sudden, COVID showed us that telemedicine actually works. So there is, good things that we can take out of this pandemic.
Thanks, Ben. Joaquin, at J&J MedTech, we have been working on innovation internally and open innovation together with healthcare institutions. Can you tell us about those experiences and some learnings you have experienced along this path?
So some examples of open innovation where we've partnered with startup companies. One is an algorithm, an artificial intelligence algorithm that helps identify atrial fibrillation early on, right? This is a condition of the heart where the heart beats irregularly. And one of the main problems is that this condition is referred at a very late stage for treatment. And usually, different things are tried out, medications, lifestyle changes, others, but the definitive cure is an ablation. So with this algorithm, taking, for example, patients that are in the emergency room or that come into regular checkups, the algorithm is able to identify much earlier cases of atrial fibrillation, and then patients can be moved to treatment. That has been a successful case. We have another one of an app For colorectal surgery, it's very important to identify complications post-surgery very quickly. And this is an app that interacts with either the patient or the caretaker in a very natural way. And it's used with WhatsApp or SMS, so it's not a different app, which helps in adoption. And one of the key learnings there that you were asking me about learnings, Paula, was that the hospital identified the pain point, right? So the need was clear. But in order for the app to really play its role, we had to help the hospital in all of the other elements, right, of protocols, how treatment was given, how nurses were following up and using that information that the app was bringing to change patterns of care and quickly bring patients that could be in the threat of a complication. So it was a big change internally that we had to do before we could actually realize, or the hospital could realize, the value of this app. So those are a couple of examples which and some learnings.
Thanks, Joaquin. It's all about connecting the dots. Yes. Benjamin, going back to you, how can organizations effectively navigate this shifting towards innovation, and what are some learnings and challenges that you can share with us?
So I would suggest starting with baby steps, because it can be overwhelming. And my recommendation will be start with baby steps, that things can be done, can be achieved. So have some quick wins, as we say. Clinical trials are, of course, one easy way to engage in innovation and be exposed in innovation. Another way is your data. Today organizations, hospitals are extremely defensive and protective of their data. They believe that they are holding gold or oil in their hands. And I always say that data is much better than oil, because oil, once you consume it, it's gone. And data, the more you consume it, the more you share it, the more valuable it becomes. So my recommendation is to identify the strength, and if your strength is in available data, then use it. If you can provide clinical trial sites for pharma companies, medtech companies, do it. And later on, build your own muscles of internal innovation. But starting with open innovation is a very, so to speak, easy way to get started, get this off the ground, and later on, develop into the more complex processes that involve innovation.
Perfect. Thank you, Benjamin, and thank you very much for traveling this far, for joining us today, and for happy to have you here. And thank you for sharing your invaluable insights on healthcare innovation. It was a truly enlightening discussion for us today and this morning. To finalize our webcast, any recommendations you want to give to our audience regarding how to advance health innovation in their organizations?
Well, just do it. I very much like this slogan by Nike. Just do it. And the better, and the sooner the better.
Thanks, Ben. Joaquin, thank you for bringing your perspective around healthcare innovation and Johnson Johnson MedTech journey. I would like to pose the same question I asked to Benjamin. Any recommendations you want to give to our audience regarding how to advance innovation in healthcare?
So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to share this table today with Benjamin and with you, Paula, and for all of you for tuning in. One very special recommendation I would give is work on culture and ways of working within your organizations. We've had to do that a lot in Johnson Johnson, right? In order to partner with hospitals in all of these experiences that I shared, we definitely had to change the way we were working internally, right? We found many silos, right? Everybody doing their little piece in their area, but the solution that we had to bring and how to help hospitals required us to really focus on the customer and bring the power of all those capabilities together. But breaking silos isn't easy, and that involves changing the culture, changing the way that you, incentivize also teams, how you measure success. All of those things are as important as the technology and the strategy that you want that technology to enable.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joaquin, and thank you, Benjamin, again. And thank you all for tuning in. be sure to join us next time as we delve further into the realm of healthcare innovation. Until then, take care and stay curious about innovation. Thank you.